This man could make the things in a picture materialize in reality just by staring at it. That's why every time his father went grocery shopping, after checking out, he would tear off all the packaging patterns of the products, making sure not to bring any paper with pictures back home. Carl had the body of an adult, yet his mental capacity remained that of a 3-year-old. His father, Ross, led a secluded life with him, all to safeguard his son's secret. However, the tranquility was shattered nonetheless. At the dinner table, Carl was pestering for a donut. Without looking at any pictures, he conjured up a donut out of thin air, merely by memory. Ross was instantly seized by horror. His son's power had transcended the limitation of pictures, but this godlike power of creation had always brought nothing but disaster. Before long, Carl suffered severe food poisoning from the food that had appeared out of nowhere and was rushed to the hospital. When the doctor casually mentioned that there were color TVs and comic books in the ward, Mr. and Mrs. Ross's faces paled instantly. They desperately requested a private ward for Carl, with no pictures or TV. This unusual behavior drew the attention of Camp, a social worker from the Child Welfare Bureau. Camp firmly believed that the Rosses were mistreating the disabled child. Disregarding the obstruction, he barged into the ward and snatched Carl's toy, which sent Carl into a complete emotional meltdown. Ross had no alternative but to forcibly take his son and flee the hospital. But Camp had secretly resolved to rescue Carl from this sinister family. Tragedy soon struck again. Late at night, while his wife was cleaning, she inadvertently picked up a medical picture book. Carl stared at the pictures and made the things depicted in it appear. When Ross rushed into his son's room, his wife was already lying there, breathless, a victim of Carl's power. Shortly after the funeral, Camp, who considered himself a champion of justice, showed up. Wielding an investigation report, he vehemently accused Ross of confining the child and depriving Carl of the right to contact the outside world. Ross knew that a normal explanation would be of no avail. He took out a picture book of medieval warfare and asked Camp to flip through the pages for Carl to see. Carl stared at the pictures in the book, and in an instant, a medieval armor materialized in reality. Camp, who had witnessed the power of creation firsthand, was instantly petrified. However, to Ross's utter despair, after the initial shock, Camp exclaimed with excitement that Carl's power could change the world and declared that he must report this matter. Ross completely broke down. He shouted at Camp, telling him that the outside world would only lock Carl, who couldn't even say no, up in a laboratory for research. But Camp simply wouldn't listen. Ross finally realized that as long as Carl was alive and there were pictures in the world, the tragedies would never end. He made the most heart-rending decision. He took the picture book, sat beside Carl, gently stroked his son's hair, and presented a picture depicting a towering inferno in front of Carl.